And now, you just crossed over into the Logan Zone. From ECU Pirate football to the whole college landscape to basically anything else that's on his mind, Coach Steve Logan's talking about it now.
You don't coach at East Carolina. You don't come to East Carolina. You don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart.
Tweet at Steve Logan Show with your takes or call 252-561-GAME for your spot in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles. Now, here's Steve Logan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pat Donahue.
Well, the train I ride is 18 coaches long. Said the train I ride 18 coaches long. And the woman I love, she's just now leaving home. Said, hey, mama, what's the
Welcome back to the Logan Zone, round 2. I think I counted up, we're going to have 24-something shows this year, all the way until the end of the Super Bowl. So this is the second edition. Got off to a good start last week. And I want to remind everybody, we got a new phone number this week now, 252-561-4263. 252-561-4263, which is 252-561-GAME, as in 94.3 the game. And I want to remind everybody that the best caller will receive a Bojangles tailgate package consisting of an 8-piece special with all the fixings, trimmings, you name it. And by the way, Philip Mad Dog Pilkington, the producer of this show, who won last week, Philip?
Destry won.
Destry won the best call into the show last week, right?
Yep.
So he gets the Bojangles call of the week, and so we've got a new show this week, and whoever calls in with the best questions, best comments, most thought-provoking ideas, we will award you that. Package, and Philip is in charge of that every week. So. One more time, the number is 252-561-4263. We are on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube. If you want to go into YouTube, you can type in 94.3 The Game to get you into the show, okay? To start things off, and by the way this show operates, I've got a stack full of content right here, and I can babble on forever about anything and everything, but I will drop everything just as I did as a head coach for years and years and years. I would be in the middle of doing whatever it was I had to do, and players would come to the door, and when they knocked at the door, I would drop everything, do anything for the players. So feel free to call 252-561-4263, and I will have interesting conversations with you. So having said that, what I wanted to do is just open the show with a kind of a bird's eye view of the bigger games that were played last week nationally. And as I mentioned last week, on last week's show, some of this realignment activity where it's continually creating a two-tiered system, okay? There is, the Big Four was the Big Five. It's the Big Four now, and really everybody else. Well, in the meantime, one of the manifestations of that is you're seeing fewer, there were still a lot, but you're seeing fewer, let's say Alabama versus the Little Sisters of the Blind. Okay, those games are going by the wayside. There's still some of them. What there is more of, and that's without question, are some of the Big Four teams entertaining each other early in the season. And a couple of them I wanted to just touch on. In the SEC, what was interesting in the SEC, Texas A&M, Florida, and LSU all got beat. And, that is what it is. I think before the season's over, all three of those football teams, maybe not Florida, but Texas A&M and LSU, they're going to be good football teams. Just LSU came out of the gate slowly last year and got better and better as it went on. They were, obviously a really good football team. In the Big 12, I didn't see anybody stand out in the Big 12. Once again, the Colorado experiment which it's truly an experiment. This is a celebrity head coach, a guy that knows how to manipulate the media. He's way out on the edge with all of the social media stuff. He and his, coach Deion Sanders and his sons, they're way out ahead with, I don't know what you would call it, the way to go about things for the new generation. And but I'm not convinced Colorado University is going to be a really good football team. I think they've got a good quarterback. They struggled to win the game last week against what I used to call a 1AA opponent. I'm not convinced they're going to be that much better. I think they may have a winning season. But again, the Big 12 in particular, I don't see anything big coming out of the Big 12. Oklahoma State is going to be good, but I don't see anybody that's going to be, somebody in the Big 12 is going to get an automatic bid into this 12-team playoff. So, but I don't see anybody in there that looks to be a real threat. The Big 10, Ohio State, I think is Ohio State. I think Michigan, they went out and played Fresno State, or Fresno State came to Michigan. I don't know which one it was, but I did go back and look at the highlights of that. Michigan is right now, after 1 week, small piece of information that I'm working with. I think they're in trouble from the standpoint of, they're not going to be in the discussion. I don't think. I really don't. I think they've got quarterback issues. They've got, there was just too much fabric torn out of the Michigan program with the head coach, defensive coordinator. They elevated Sherrod Moore, I think his name is, and there's just too much work to be done to just pick up and say, here we are, we're Michigan again. I don't think they're going to be. I think Texas is going to go into Michigan and beat them. I'll be really surprised. I obviously, I'm not great at picking winning football teams. I'm really not, because I'm so close to it most of the time. I see all of the speed bumps and, potholes that can get in the way. And but on this particular situation, I just don't see Michigan being all that. But coming out of the Big Ten, I think Ohio State behaved like they were supposed to behave this weekend and won easily, won big, and they're going to be something to contend with. In the meantime, the other thing that was a bit surprising, and this is significant, what I'm going to touch on here, and I'm talking nationally here. We'll get local here in a minute. But nationally, I watched the University of Southern California play LSU, and it was a good football game. But aside from all of that, and aside from USC winning on the last play of the game, here's what was really, really scary if you have to play USC. Lincoln Riley went out and bought a new defensive coordinator. All right. And everybody knows these types of air raid football programs, whether it be, Texas Tech, which is one of the original people with Mike Leach pulling all the strings. And then he went to Mississippi State. It's the same presentation year after year, week after week, week after week, which is we're going to score 60 and try to hold you to 59. All right. If we can just hold you to 59, we're going to win the game. And, these air raid outfits do that 6, 7, 8 times a year. They do that. But invariably, they fall short in the big game because there's just not enough defense on hand. Well, I'm saying all that to say this. The thing that really jumped out at me was USC in the LSU game tackled people with intention. They fit the run gaps with intention. They gang tackled with intention. There was a culture shift. And the point about that is this: if Lincoln Riley's offense can continue to throw up big points, now they didn't, they got 28 points against LSU, which is a good day's work. Look, it doesn't matter if Bugs Bunny's the head coach at LSU. They've got great defensive personnel every year. I coached in that league for 2 years. I've seen it up close and personal. I've watched it from a distance now for 100 years. LSU has good football players, period, particularly on defense. And Lincoln got 28, which I'll reiterate, that's a good day's work. But USC to me on a national, as you watch this national unfolding of a season that's going to have 12 teams in a playoff, watch USC, because if they can indeed continue to be a good air raid offense coupled with a semblance of defense, this is a program to watch out for. Now, I got interested in USC because of that football game, so I kind of pulled in, looking at their schedule. I'll tell you something that's going to be a pitfall for USC. I just know it is. They've got to travel to Maryland. They've got to travel to Minnesota, and they've got to travel maybe to Ohio State. I forget. There are 3 cross-country trips on their schedule. You say, well, Coach Logan, teams do that all the time. Well, I got news for you. USC has never done anything like this before, ever in the history, in the culture of their program. The Pac-12 was a conference where you just drove around California and played a football game, with the exception of driving up to Oregon or the state of Washington for a couple of football games every other year. There was very little demanding travel if you were an old Pac-12 football program. You might go to Arizona State, but you get my point. Very little travel. And I can testify to you, particularly from being in the NFL, when we were at San Francisco and we go to play the New York Giants on a, 3-4 hour time shift. You fly out early, you fly out late, you got all these mechanisms to try to get your sleep halfway organized, and I'm just telling you right now, it's brutal. It's brutal. All right? And then getting back from the first game I coached at San Francisco, we went to the New York Giants, played them at night, got beat on the last play of the game, and so it's midnight when we finally get on an airplane. It's midnight East Coast, all right? You fly back to the West Coast, and you're getting off the plane, going straight to the football office. You got to start your game plans and all that other stuff going on, 4 or 5 hours sleep. It's crazy. And it takes the staff, and it takes the players. Normally you have to give your players 2 days off. We did in the NFL. I don't know if you can get away with that in college, because college players, their retention is not near what an NFL football player is. But the point I'm making is that USC, all of the West Coast teams that are now in the, quote, Big Ten, and they're going to make these cross-country trips, the same is going to be somewhat true for the eastern half of the Big Ten that has to travel out to California. These are going to be management issues. And I'm sure that most of those head coaches have called a lot of NFL people that do this routinely and find out what the latest science, the sleep science, the travel issues, the logistics, the pregame meal. You're trying to get a pregame meal into a football player 4 hours before kickoff. Well, you go from the West Coast, you leave at 7 o'clock, you lose 3 hours and fly 6 hours. There's a 9-hour shift, and all of a sudden you're trying to figure out kickoff and a pregame meal, and it usually comes to when normally that football player from the West Coast that's the middle of the night for him. And you're trying to get him to ingest a pregame meal of, pasta and protein and all the other science that goes along with the nutrition aspect of traveling and playing. And I could go on and on and on. It's an absolute science when you get down to it. And I think those things are going to matter for the Big Ten Conference. And with these people traveling, particularly from the west to the east, it's a little bit easier when you go east to west. But just watch out for USC, and let's see how that handles. They got I've got it right here. USC travels to Michigan, Minnesota, and Maryland. And they may go win those football games, and it's not necessarily winning that game. It's the next week is what I'm talking about. And that happened to us at San Francisco. We would go, like I say, play the New York Giants, and then the next week it was everything we could do to get everybody reorganized and get back out on the field Sunday to play whoever was next at home. So just let's all keep an eye on that. The ACC, now this gets real interesting, the ACC. Florida State, they're doing this and they're trying to sue to get out of the conference and all this other monkey business that went on all year long, same as Clemson. And both Florida State and Clemson, Florida State in particular, they got a mess on their hands. And I'm going to tell you one simple reason why, and it's the same simple reason that blows up any good football program: the quarterback. Florida State has a massive problem at quarterback. That young man, I'm sure he's a great kid, and I don't want to beat the young man up, but he really struggled at Clemson. He left. I think he went to Oregon State and was manageable at Oregon State, and I could not believe that Florida State evidently went after this young man and paid him like you pay all the quarterbacks these days, and that's who they ended up with. This young man is inaccurate. His decision-making is questionable at best, and it's been that way now. It was that way at Clemson. He was supposed to be the next coming, when Trevor Lawrence left, and this young man was going to – his name is DJ – can you say it, Philip?
Ugalungale.
Well, there you go. Philip, every time I say DJ, you can follow up with that last name for me, because all I want to do is say DJ Ukulele, okay? So there you go. But this young man – is struggling, and it's painful to watch. And I know that the East Carolina fans can relate because of what they had to go through last year. And let me, I made a comment. I was talking with somebody the other day. They were talking about East Carolina's situation last year, and they kept referring to the coaches. And I said, I'm going to give you a little bit of inside baseball here. I want you to think about this, because I have been involved in a couple of situations to where the quarterback was the central issue. It was the problem. All right. Here's what happens in those situations. You have an offense and you try to teach it to the quarterback, and the quarterback, suddenly you're finding out in real time that the quarterback can't execute. Well, what do? You go back after the game in which the quarterback did not execute, and you try to dumb down the game plan. You take things out that it looks like the kid can't do. And then you go into the next game and it gets worse. And so you go in the next week, and what do you do as a coach? Well, you add some things that you think maybe the kid can do. You go out the next week, guess what? All that did was make things worse. All right, now you're into week 4. Well, let's take some more things out. And so you're constantly adding and subtracting. You're doing what a good coach should do, which is you're searching for answers. But when the quarterback can't play, it devolves into sheer chaos. And it makes the coach look like an idiot, when in fact that very same football coach the year before, 2 years before, had won championships. And that was the case at East Carolina last year. It's not just the coach. The players have got to be able to express the ideas on game day in a cogent, identifiable manner. And when they can't, the fans sit in the stands and say the coach is an idiot. You got to have players, guys. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You cannot win the Kentucky Derby riding a jackass. You better be on a thoroughbred. And if you've got a thoroughbred, you better know how to ride him. I've seen bad riders get on a horse and screw the horse up. It takes both. It's called a symbiotic relationship. There's your 25-cent private college education coming straight from Coach Logan to you. It's a symbiotic relationship. I hear the blues creeping in. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back.
Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group is not your typical insurance company. We're a family-run, independently owned agency that's been trusted throughout eastern North Carolina since 1963. For 60 years, we've proudly served local communities with a passion for customer service that goes beyond simply meeting expectations. My father understood the importance of rolling up his sleeves and going to work to find solutions for his clients, and our team today understands it too. If you contact one of our 6 offices, rest assured that we'll treat you like family, not just a client. Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, your whole world covered.
It's bow time. Some classics never go out of style, like fresh egg, American cheese, and hickory smoked bacon on a made-from-scratch biscuit. But why stop there? Pair it with crispy bow rounds and a hot coffee or medium drink. Your morning deserves a breakfast that has it all. From the fluffy egg and crispy bacon to the melted cheese and, of course, a legendary Bojangles biscuit. That's the ultimate breakfast combo. Order in the app or at Bojangles. It's bow time.
Hey folks, Coach Steve Logan here, asking you to support the life-saving mission of the Atlantic Beach King Mackerel Tournament this October. This event helps raise needed funds for the fire department's purchase of life-saving gear that could save someone you love.
Join Bojangles, Window World, Flatlands Jessup Insurance, and Linda Reich Real Estate
as we raise money to save lives. Sign up for the Atlantic Beach King Mackerel Tournament or simply make your life-saving donation at WeFishForLife.com.
Wear your colors with pride, whether it be ECU or any of the high schools in Pitt County. Stadium Sports on Charles Boulevard has all the merchandise and tailgating gear for the season. Stadium Sports is where the Pirate Nation shops. And it's also the place for hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, and hats to show your support of your favorite Pitt County high school. With tons of brands like Adidas, 1211 Designs, Champion, Cutter & Buck, Costa, Calcutta, and more. You'll find the style you want. Check out the new t-shirts and hats from Pirate Coast. Stadium Sports beside the railroad overpass on Charles Boulevard, Greenville.
Anson Belt & Buckle offers a micro-adjustable, holeless belt, giving you the perfect fit every time. As an ECU alumni-owned business since 2009, Anson Belt is proud to be the official belt of East Carolina Athletics. Looking for a new belt for yourself or a special pirate? Visit AnsonBelt.com to see why over 30,000 customers have given their Anson Belt a 5-star review. With dozens of materials to choose from and thousands of possible combinations, you'll find the belt for every occasion, especially game day, at AnsonBelt.com.
Hey there, Eastern North Carolina. Jeff Stein at Brown & Wood. We have the 2024 Encore GX at 0.9 for 36 months. You heard it right, 0.9. We also have the Envision and the Enclave at 0.9. For GMC, we have the 2024 Sierra at 1.9%, the Terrain at 0.9%, and the all-new Hummer EV 849 lease for 24 months. Brown & Wood, 89 years in business in Greenville. 4 brands, 3 generations, 2 rooftops, and 1 goal to make sure you leave a happy customer.
Coach Logan's in the zone. And now so are you. Back into the Logan Zone, brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
Well, now summer's getting hotter. Can't you feel the sun? It's time to hit the road and head north on 61. I'm gonna lose my troubles and see what I can find. Way up in Minnesota at my cabin in the border pines. Well, now I got no television.
Back in the Logan Zone. Folks, I know it's still summer, but it's not too early to think about the cold temperatures coming in a few months. In fact, if you want to save money on your utility bill this winter, now is a great time of year to get your house ready. Head over to guc.com and look for ways to save, no matter what time of year it is. Greenville Utilities, proudly powering the Pirates. All right, so we were taking a look nationally, and I saved the best for last. That I found really, really, really interesting, and this is going to it's going to be a barometer, really, to everybody,
Caller, Coach.
To pay attention to, and so it looks like we've got a caller. So I'm gonna hold this little thought that I had right here, and Philip, who we got right now?
We have Chuck on the line.
Chuck, what you got going, man? You there, Chuck? Philip, I am not hearing Chuck, so...
Neither am I. Let me look into it.
All righty. So as we try to get Chuck back on the line, we've got 252-561-4263, or you can tweet me at Steve Logan Show if you want to get in. So where I was headed, the Georgia Clemson game in particular was another, like the USC LSU game caught my attention. The Georgia Clemson game, there was something that happened there. There was something that happened there that was very, very significant. If you've kind of been paying attention, the transfer portal, NIL, collective, all of that just simply means pay the players. But the portal in particular, Dabo Swinney, the head coach at Clemson, who's been magnificently successful and one of the best coaches around, Dabo Swinney has resisted and publicly stated that, they're not going to create a football team out of the portal. Now, you go on the flip side of that, and you can see what has happened at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin has made a concerted effort in that direction. He's all about go plug and play. You need a corner, go buy a corner. Get him in there, let's play, and we'll teach him the system as we go, which is not necessarily program building. It's roster management. Now, in the meantime,
Coach, we should have
Lane
Chuck on
Kiffin,
now.
Okay, I'm going to hold that thought. Let's see if we can get to Chuck. Chuck, are you there?
No, it's still putting him through the normal phone.
Okay, well we'll get Chuck when we can get him. Philip, you work on that. But Dabo Swinney,
Right.
and I'm going to make an analogy here for you. Dabo Swinney has publicly said he doesn't want to go into the portal.
It's not going
Okay,
through the board, so I may have to just relay your
that's
question,
okay.
Coach,
But what Dabo wants to do is have a
some reason-
program. He
Let
wants
me
to
try
build
one
his
last thing. I'm
program.
sorry about this.
Well, he went out there and guess what? It's 34-3, and Georgia manhandled Clemson. And I mentioned that to say this. I still think Clemson's got a good roster. I think Clemson is going to be competitive, and they could well win the ACC because right now I don't see anybody in the ACC that had a good outing other than Miami. And so let's just see where that goes. But I want to say this, and some of you basketball folks that are listening to me right now, you call in and correct me if I'm wrong. All right, I could be wrong. I'm not a big basketball guy, but I do pay attention to Mike Krzyzewski, only because I'm interested in his approach to coaching, whether it be basketball or ice hockey or tiddlywinks. It's coaching. So I watched as the one and done era came into college basketball. Okay, these kids would come and they would play 1 year and go straight to the NBA. Well, there was a resistance on the part of Mike Krzyzewski to join in and do this. And, we're Duke and we don't have to do that and we're not going to do that. And here we go. And there they went. And I watched the Duke basketball program proceed to look very, very human for several years. And suddenly, guess what? Mike Krzyzewski comes out and says, you know what? We're going to do one and done. And it couldn't have been more than 2 seasons later, Mike Krzyzewski goes and wins a national championship in basketball. But the point I'm making is there's a lesson there for everybody. If Duke, with the basketball culture that it had at hand, couldn't survive without joining in a new way of doing things, which, college athletics is just like, Apple computers. It's an industry. All right. And it evolves and it changes. And when things change, you better have some answers. You better be flexible. You better investigate it. You don't have to always change with it, but you better at least be aware.
Alrighty, Coach,
and you better
we're having some phone issues, so I'm going to relay the question if that's okay.
Okay, well, hold that question. Let me finish this little talk right here.
All right.
So, the point I'm making is that, things have changed in college football. And it's going to be really, really interesting. And I would encourage all of the listeners to this show, if you want to, broaden your horizons, watch Clemson, see what happens. To me, again, now watching Clemson, it gets back to the same thing. I don't think they've got a quarterback. If they had a quarterback, I think the rest of their roster is fairly competitive. I really do. They stood up to Georgia for a good while in that football game, but couldn't hold up. You certainly can't hold up when you're not scoring points. And so, if Dabo runs around out there and maybe even next year or whatever finds a Trevor Lawrence or, Taj Boyd or some of those guys that he had down through the years when he was making his run. And don't ever forget this, folks. You better have a quarterback or a plan to get one. That's a Bill Walshism. It was true back in 1980. The game of football is quarterback centric. The NFL 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they began to not pay the running back for good reason. It doesn't matter if you've got Saquon Barkley running around with football for the New York Giants. They really don't have a quarterback. They've got a good one, not a great one. And the running back's not good enough. You got to have a quarterback. And if you've got a quarterback that can distribute the ball, this is the 21st century point guard that has come into the game. It's the ball distribution to any and all of the playmakers. Get the ball out to the right guy. Okay? The running back has got to be a multi-talented guy right now. He can't, handing off somebody in the I formation, those days are gone. And so, I'm relating this all the way back to what started the conversation, which is Clemson being unable to hold up, along with the fact that it's public knowledge. Dabo Swinney does not want to go into the portal, which is fine, but it's going to be a real interesting experiment. And, I would throw that conversation up against the other conversation that I had last year with the Deion Sanders experiment, which is full throttle, wide open, no holds barred. Bring in 50 new guys a year. Lane Kiffin's somewhere in the middle of that. I think he brought in 19 last year, if I'm correct. But the point I'm making is you better stay attuned to the industry that you're in. It doesn't matter if it's the radio industry or plumbing, heating and air, football. You better stay attuned to what's going on. Okay? All right. So, having said that, Philip, what question you got? What question did Chuck have?
First thing Chuck wanted to know is if you had ever been to there was a vineyard, or I think it was, a winery in Durham, Zaint House.
In Durham?
Yeah.
No, I have not. I've been to the Napa Valley several times. In fact, when I was coaching with San Francisco, that was the best part about coaching in San Francisco. I was out in the Napa Valley a lot, but I have not been to a vineyard in Durham.
Okay, and then the last one was there was a quarterback he was asking about, and I should have wrote it down because now I forgot the name because got dealing with technical issues, and now it sounds like my mic's cutting out. But he said it was a quarterback that was here your last year, and he struggled a little bit, and he wanted to give, if you name off a name, who would have been
Paul
here?
Troth.
Yeah, that was it, Paul Troth. And what your thoughts were on Paul and what he could have been moving forward. What kind of your thoughts were on Paul?
Well, Paul, I think Paul is now a private quarterback coach instructor, and I'm sure he's real good at it because he was technically proficient. And Paul was caught in a bad situation at East Carolina, to be honest with you. He was a pure pocket passer with very little mobility, and it put our offensive line under a great deal of stress. And where Paul had things not blown up, I had a young man redshirting behind Paul. I think the young man's last name was Pinkney, James Pinkney. And probably what was going to happen with Paul, he was going to be a bridge type quarterback. The older Pirate fans, they might think Danny Gonzalez. Danny was a fine young man, a real good quarterback for us and that won games for us. But Danny bridged between Mark Crandall, who was a 12-year CFL football player. Danny bridged to David Garrard, who obviously was an all-pro quarterback. And I had the same type of situation that was going to unfold had things not, been interrupted. So, that was Paul's journey. That was his journey, so to speak. And I think had Paul been at a university like a Boston College, for instance, I think he could have prospered and flourished because he needed a lot of protection. He was an accurate thrower, threw a really nice football, really bright, but his lack of mobility, at East Carolina, and that was partly my fault. I knew one of the ways that, and I was adamant about this in the recruiting aspect of things with our staff, the quarterback had to be mobile. because the offensive linemen that we had, by and large, at East Carolina, year in and year out, were, compromised. A lot of times it wasn't, we didn't have let me put it this way. A good left tackle is 6'5" tall. All right. Because you need length on the edge. Your tackles need length. Your guards can be a little bit shorter. They've got to be able to handle the middle pocket push, but you need length on the edge. We rarely had an offensive tackle that had length. Okay. We had a few down through the years. And I remember in 1991, we had a young man that ended up playing several years of pro football, Tom Scott. He was one of the first, large men, 350 pounds, which in 1991, nobody had that, but we did. And I had a young man named Brian Remp that played for me from Raleigh. And Brian went on and played, I think, 6, 7, 8 years with the Baltimore Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. But we had a few, but by and large, if you're going to have a pure pocket quarterback, you need length at tackle. You need a very sturdy center guard combo that can resist a middle push to the pocket. And without that, you better have a mobile quarterback. Well, you go back and look at our journey, the staff that we put together for, from 1991 to 2001. We went from Jeff Blake, very mobile, to Mark Crandall, very mobile, David Garrard, very mobile. So when the pocket did break down, we still had a chance to move the quarterback and create what I called the second play. The play that I called, then the scramble could take place, and then the second play would take place. And quite honestly, this is where a lot of explosion plays come from. And that's the beauty of football. And when I talk about second plays in particular, second plays are most valuable in the red zone. It's very compact. You need a mobile quarterback to break the pocket, move around, get the secondary to fall apart, make mistakes, lose track of their receivers. That's where you throw your touchdown passes. And that's just a matter of fact. All right. When we get back, we're going to come back and zero in on some of the local activity that took place with Duke, North Carolina State, UNC, Wake, and East Carolina University. This is one of the best blues songs ever.
If you want to talk about it,
a guy named David Holt.
Listen till you're through.
Play a slide guitar like nobody. All right. We'll be back pretty quick. The number to get in, 252-561-4263. Best caller will receive a Bojangles tailgate package.
Break off another bottle.
Be back after the break.
Steel guitar.
Need to insure a boat in Edenton, a business in Elizabeth City, a car in Greenville? How about a farm truck in Mount Olive or a home on the Outer Banks? Weatherly Insurance Agency, an independent insurance agency with 6 locations in eastern North Carolina, is here to help. Weatherly Insurance Agency has agents you can get to know because they're your neighbors and live in your town. Call today, 888-OBX-2-IBX, or on the web at weatherlyinsurance.com. From the Outer Banks to the Inner Banks, Weatherly Insurance has you covered.
Remember the days when you could go to your favorite butcher shop and get your pork chops or steaks cut just the way you like them? Well, you still can. Acre Station Meat Farm on Highway 32 in Pinetown, north of Washington, is Eastern Carolina's traditional butcher shop. Acre Station is where you can get your order cut the way you want it. The best sausage, bacon, and pork chops and steaks you'll ever taste. The short trip to Acre Station is worth the drive.
At Acre Station, you just get that good, friendly service you just can't find anymore.
I guarantee it's the best sausage and bacon you'll ever eat.
As fall approaches, 2 things come to mind: football and cooler weather. This is Rachel Davis with Advanced Mechanical Heating and Air. We wanted to thank you for the trust you have put in us this summer. Before you know it, cooler temperatures will arrive, signaling winter is on the way. Don't wait. Prepare now for colder temperatures by scheduling a tune-up. Give us a call today at 252-355-9191 or visit our website, advancedmechnc.com.
Looking for outdoor storage, maybe a she shed, man cave, tiny home, or greenhouse? If so, East Carolina Outdoor Products is your one-stop shop. They carry wood sheds, small to large, all customizable online. East Carolina Outdoor Products also has a full line of custom steel buildings, including carports, garages, workshops, and commercial-graded structures. They're the only company in Eastern Carolina that manufactures, delivers, and sells outdoor storage buildings, and they're pirates. 10 locations in Eastern North Carolina.
Tell them Henry sent you for an additional discount.
There have been many changes in the automotive world. At Phelps Chevrolet, the Phelps boys are here to take care of you. Mike, Daryl, and 4 of Mr. Phelps' grandsons, Wade, West, Allen, and Clay. You see, things at Phelps remain the same. The Phelps team has served Eastern North Carolina for over 50 years. We make your visit easy and fun. We are your neighbors, and that's what neighbors do. Phelps Chevrolet in Greenville. Like Mr. Phelps' great-granddaughter says, come in and get you one.
Get ready, Greenville. Jaggers is going to open on Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports soon. What are you excited to try? And what sets Jaggers apart? Everything, and I mean everything, is made from scratch. Burgers, chicken, and salads like you've never tasted. Shoestring fries, too. It's a fun environment. You just wait. If you haven't been to Jaggers, you just have to taste it for yourself. Nothing is prepackaged. You're going to love Jaggers. Coming soon to Memorial Drive in front of Academy Sports in Greenville.
Coach Steve Logan wants to hear from you. More from Coach Logan in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
Back in the Logan Zone, we went from acoustic blues to Fender Strat electric. I love it. Jimmy Thackeray, I think that's who that was. Got to see him live in Washington, D.C. one night. He's something special. He's not a nationally known guy. He is in the blues cult. You know, if you're a blues guy, you know who that guy is the moment he starts. Really good stuff. So, all right. So we went national in the first segment. Let's bring our focus back in. And again, they're working on the phone lines here. So if you want to get in, 252-561-4263. And best caller will receive a Bojangles tailgate package consisting of an 8-piece special with all the fixings. But back to the stack, as I call it. Let's just take a quick look, at our local, activity here, the 5-6 schools that everybody pays attention to here in the state. Duke is interesting. In this area where everybody's gone out and bought a quarterback, and I looked and particularly watched the quarterback play of every school in the state this last Saturday. And I'm going to make a prediction that may shock everybody. Let's just go ahead and start with UNC. UNC went out and bought the quarterback from Texas A&M. I believe his last name is Johnson. And, of course, he goes out immediately and breaks his leg, which goes back to the first show I did last week, and everybody talking about projection this, projection that, and how did I feel at the beginning of any season. And I made the comment last week, there are so many pitfalls, potholes, speed bumps, chaos, crisis that unfold in any football season that really to sit there and say, well, we're going to be good. I think you're smoking crack to think that. Okay, because ask Mac Brown right now. That quarterback broke his leg on play number 2, and so they got a backup quarterback. But just hold that thought for a second. I went through all of the quarterbacks. North Carolina State, really high on the Coastal Carolina kid that they got. And, he's a good football player, no doubt about it. The East Carolina looks like that they've got somebody that's good and can handle the offense that they're trying to employ. But here's where I'm headed. I want to go back to Duke. They hit the jackpot. This kid, Malik Murphy, he's for real. And evidently he's a Texas, 5-star guy that found himself sitting behind Archie Manning and the Ewers kid that's still starting. The Ewers kid is interesting as well because he fought off all the hype of the Manning entry at Texas, and he's still the starter. And so you're seeing the Manning kid. It's probably the biggest blessing that's ever come along for this young Manning kid is the fact that he has indeed, he's going to sit the bench for a year and a half. And that's good. That's healthy. And, I routinely did that with all the quarterbacks I ever dealt with at the collegiate level. I redshirted them. And I know, we know it's the best thing to do. Can a young man come in from high school and just get up and go? Yeah, they can. And it can be done. But I know this much. The chances of a car wreck occurring, a train wreck deal is higher than if you bring a young man and he gets a chance to redshirt. He gets a chance to go through the off season. He gets to go through his first, what we call an install. So he gets an install of the offense when he arrives as a freshman. He gets another install during the spring of his freshman year. Then he gets another install at the beginning of his second year. So he gets 3 doses of installing the offense. It's repetitive. You do it over and over and over, and pretty soon everything you're talking to the kid about begins to make some sense. So having said all that, all the way back to Duke's transfer quarterback, Malik Murphy, he made some throws in the Duke game that were for real. And I could tell he was a little bit unsettled, much like all the quarterbacks that I saw. I think all of them were, a little bit nervous, a little bit uptight. And that goes with the territory. I think you'll see all of them begin to settle down. But Duke hit on this quarterback, and that one football player is going to give Duke a chance to go out in any football game and be competitive. This kid's got, he's got the size. He was 26 of 40, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a good day's work, man. I don't care who you're playing. That's a good day's work. And the thing that was alerted me a little bit about Duke, the game, they did not look like they could run the football very well, and they were playing an inferior opponent, like most everybody was. But Duke's quarterback caught my eye. I think that they won the quarterback lottery for all of the people in state. I think I would take him number 1 from what I saw. That'll move us over to North Carolina State. Now, North Carolina State, the Grayson McCall kid, he was 26 of 40, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But we all know it was a struggle early on. I think that he was really uptight. I'll tell you what, I mentioned this last week. The offensive coordinator at North Carolina State did a really smart thing when this kid was struggling to find his footing during that football game. And it really was the coordinator was late to get to this idea, but once he got to it, it really broke the game open. He got Grayson out of the pocket, moved him, and gave him some clear lines of sight and some, clearer, easier type throws, more downfield shots, which, play action, bootleg type stuff can give you. So the idea of moving him out of the pocket really settled him down, and he had a good football game. Now, this young man's going to have to get better in the pocket. If he doesn't, then North Carolina State's going to have a year-long problem. But kind of getting off that subject, talking about North Carolina State in general, this coming weekend, they're going to play Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's got one of the most electric quarterbacks on the planet right now, okay? And this kid's really good from Tennessee. But with what happened to Clemson, with what happened to Florida State, North Carolina State University, if indeed this quarterback, Grayson McCall, can get his feet on the ground, this game coming up this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina State versus Tennessee, this is going to be a real look as to what North Carolina State may be able to do inside the ACC. I mean, I'd love to see North Carolina State beat Tennessee. Everybody would, all the North Carolina State fans, I should say. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. And if it does, North Carolina State, again, when you examine what happened to Florida State, what happened to Clemson, all of a sudden North Carolina State could have that breakout season that's always been, right at their doorstep. Chuck Amato pulled it off one time with Phillip Rivers, and then, it came and went. But, Dave Doran's done a great job, and this is what I'd say to the North Carolina State fans. Dave Doran has not done a good job. He's done a great job, because let me tell you where he has put North Carolina State. He's put them right at the doorstep year after year after year of recent years. And what that does, it gives you the opportunity to finally take that final step. But without these years that have been built up, where North Carolina State's doing that 9-3, 8-4, 9-3 thing, you're never going to pop that one where you get to 10 and 11. Okay, though you don't just come out of nowhere and do that. You got to put a lot of fabric inside the program, and I think Coach Doran's done that. This game coming up this weekend is a big, it'll serve as a barometer for all the North Carolina State fans to see where the North Carolina State program is going to go this year. I really believe that, and I'm hoping that they make a good football game out of it, and I hope they win it. All right, we got another caller, and we're going to, Philip, you going to relay the question to me? What do we got?
My mic's not working real well, but I am. So first off, Mike from Greenville wanted to thank you for recommending I think it's Rombar Zinsdale. It was something you recommended last year.
Wait, don't butcher it. It's a Rombauer Red Zinfandel. I've been to their winery out in the Napa Valley. That bottle of wine is it's the best value for the dollar spent. Okay, I think right now it's a $36 bottle of wine, but it drinks way above that, and I'm glad Mike tried that. I'm here to help everybody. So what else you got?
All right, and then he had a football question he wants to end with, but he did have one blues trivia question for you, Coach. So he says there is a famous punk rock club in New York City called CBGB. Do you know what that stands for?
I've never been there, and if it's a punk rock place, why would I go there? I've never painted my hair pink.
Hey, based off the answer to the question, which I guess I'm going to give you because you don't know, it stands for Country Bluegrass and Blues. I don't know why he called it a punk rock. Maybe that's what it is now, but he said originally it was a Country Bluegrass and Blues club back in the day, and he was wondering if you knew what it meant or had ever been there.
Well, there was a particular blues club. When you go to New York, which my wife and I used to do regularly, we don't do that anymore because of the way things have turned. But Laura and I used to go to New York regularly, and we would go to Broadway. And then when you go there, what they have in New York in abundance are jazz clubs. Now, I'm not a jazz guy. I love all kinds of music, and I can listen to jazz, but it doesn't really do it for me. I'm a blues guy. And so to go find a true blues club, I forget the name. There was one blues club, and it might have been in the Soho district, but that's the one that we went to regularly, and I used to see some of the most amazing talent that you've never, ever heard of. I mean, it just points up the fact that if you pick up a guitar and plan on going to make a living with a guitar, okay, well, good luck, Chuck, because I'll never forget, I read, I think it was Clapton that said this about the guitar. It's the easiest instrument in the world to play. It's the hardest instrument in the world to play well. And that's pretty profound. And me, being one of the worst guitar players that ever came on the scene, I can testify to that. Playing the guitar well, that's a whole different set of problems. So anyway, there's that.
So Mike's final question, was
all right.
Do you ever consider going to ECU road games And if so, what is the best road venue you've been to as a spectator on ECU's schedule, either now or in the past? Because he's looking forward to taking his family up to West Point and seeing a game at Army.
Well, I would tell him to stop right there and do that. And here's, when I left East Carolina, it looked like my journey was going to be totally in the media. And I ended up being the color commentator on the NESN, N-E-S-N, NESN network, which is a big, back in the day, it was a big television network up in New York. And I was the color commentator for Army football, of all things. And it was a great experience. So the point I'm making about that is that I was going up every other weekend for the home games. And West Point is, if you haven't been to a West Point football game, you should go. Whether you're an interested party in the teams that are playing or not, it really doesn't matter. Particularly in the early fall, to go to West Point, the whole academy experience, and certainly what I learned about what those young men go through, it's mind-blowing. And they are the best of the best of what the United States has to offer. They really are. Whether it's, I'm sure the Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, you name it, they've all got the same great young men. But the setting up there, and I know a lot of East Carolina fans, as we used to play at Army, have gone up there. I think they would say the same thing. Put West Point on your bucket list. Make the trip. Make it in the early fall. Don't go late, or you ain't got enough long underwear to survive it. I promise you don't. Okay? So make it early. And the beauty, the pageantry, the feel, it makes you feel good about America. It really does. It makes you feel good about the United States of America. We're in good hands up there. All right. We're going to take a little break here, and we will be right back. If you want to get in, hit me with a phone call or a tweet at Steve Logan Show. Phone number is 252-561-4263. We'll get with you, okay? Right after the break.
Hey folks, Steve Logan here. Hot or cold, Wilson Roads Heating and Air Conditioning has been in the keeping you comfortable business since 1961 on Hooker Road in Greenville. Steve Rhodes, second generation, gives each customer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Wilson Roads is an independent trained comfort specialist dealer specializing in new installations, home replacements, and service agreements on all makes and models. Go online at wilsonroads.com and finance up to 60 months on qualifying equipment. Hot or cold, get the job done right. Wilson Roads, you'll be comfortable in no time.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
I want to take a minute here to tell you about Bill Clark Homes. The football stadium, the baseball stadium, the Pirate Club, whatever it is, Bill Clark Homes has always been there for ECU. The reason they can do all of this is because Bill Clark Homes continues to build quality homes and neighborhoods in both the Greenville area and in the Wilmington area. And whether it's Greenville or Wilmington, you can choose your school district with several homes under construction and available now in both markets. Eastern North Carolina's premier home builder, Bill Clark Homes, building family traditions.
Hey, it's me again, Gray Fussell, fourth generation winemaker at Duplin Winery and proud alum of ECU. I'm looking forward to Pirate football and, of course, tailgate. I love to see you bring your favorite Duplin wine to your tailgate, tag us on our Instagram or TikTok, and my dad and I will pick our favorite photo from each home game. A winner will be chosen, and you'll get a basket of our best Duplin swag. So get your Duplin wine from your favorite store or come see us at one of our wineries. Go Pirates!
Hey, Pirate fans, take a trip, consolidate debt, update your home. Whatever you're planning, a personal loan up to $5,000 can help. Coach Logan here from my friends at National Finance Company. With NFC, you can get cash now. Loans up to $5,000, same-day cash, and fixed monthly payments. If you need to borrow money, trust the company that has been helping Carolinians for more than 50 years. National Finance Company. Apply at any of their 24 North Carolina locations or at nfcmoney.com.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh! 94.3 The Game, WRHD HD1, Farmville, Greenville. Powered by the Ritchie Law Firm, North Carolina's injury lawyers. Visit GotBryan.com.
That's GotBryan.com.
And now, you just crossed over into the Logan Zone. From ECU Pirate football to the whole college landscape to basically anything else that's on his mind, Coach Steve Logan's talking about it now.
You don't coach at East Carolina. You don't come to East Carolina. You don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart.
Tweet at Steve Logan Show with your takes or call 252-561-GAME for your spot in the Logan Zone. Brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles. Now, here's Steve Logan.
Best blues on the radio. And it's not even close.
Yeah, to drive down, baby, like showers of rain. Can't you hear my fair girl call my name?
Back in the Logan Zone we go.
Can't you hear my
You can hit me with a tweet at Steve Logan Show. I've got a tweet here we're going to get to here in a second. Still try to call in 252-561-4263. You can tweet me at Steve Logan Show. We were talking about, taking a closer look at some of the schools here in the state. We talked about Duke. I mentioned I think they hit the lottery on the quarterback with Malik Murphy. And North Carolina State and Tennessee this week in Charlotte. That's going to be a big deal. And, Grayson McCall got off to an okay start, a little bit shaky at the start, and I think he's going to be good. And I think North Carolina State's got a good football team. They've got a plan. They're cohesive. The Concepcion kid is a draft pick at wide receiver. It'll be interesting what's going to happen to North Carolina State, and I imagine Tennessee's going to do this. When you have one receiver that is head and shoulders above your other receivers. And this is one of the things that it's a double-edged sword when you have a, quote, go-to receiver, as North Carolina State does. A good defensive coordinator will double that kid all over the football field. All right? And what you've got to prove now as a quarterback and as an offensive coordinator, if you're NC State's offensive coordinator, you've got to prove that, okay, if you're going to take Concepcion out of the football game, these other guys can hurt you. And the quarterback can distribute the ball to these other guys. A lot of times with a go-to receiver, and Lord knows I used to battle this with coaching the quarterbacks. When the quarterbacks they fall in love with a particular receiver due to a number of circumstances. Number one, he has a way of getting open. Number two, he'll make the hard catch. Trust begins to build, and so pretty soon you've got your quarterback throwing the ball where he shouldn't be throwing it, forcing the ball, simply because that's his, quote, favorite receiver or his go-to guy. Well, the good quarterbacks, you got to get your eyes off that guy. And Tennessee, I suspect, has got a quality defensive coordinator, and they've got enough personnel that they can go out there and double this kid and take him out of the progression and make North Carolina State beat you left-handed, which is the essence of defense. Defensive coordinators, their number one job when they turn on the film is find out what you're good at and take it away. All right? What is Steve Logan good at? Take it away. Does he have a contingency plan? Does he have a plan B that he can get to and execute? If you can do that, you're a pretty good offense coordinator, pretty good offense. And, something like that probably is going to take place this week in Charlotte at the North Carolina State versus Tennessee football game. Be interesting X's and O's to watch, or chess, as they say. The other thing that jumped out at me, the UNC football team. Okay, Mac Brown went out and bought him a quarterback over there. Here he comes from Texas A&M, and evidently this is Brad Johnson, former NFL football player, quarterback. This is his son, and it wasn't 5 seconds into this football game, the young man gets rolled up and he breaks his leg. He's gone, and the University of North Carolina, Mac went out and got him a new defensive coordinator, and they looked a little bit better on defense, not markedly, but a little bit better, and they found a way to win a football game. Now, they won the football game because the Minnesota kicker missed a 27-yarder, then he missed a 40-yarder at the end of the game that would have won the game from Minnesota. And the reason I'm still got questions about the North Carolina defense is the Minnesota went out and their quarterback was a young man that came from New Hampshire, and he had set the world on fire at the lower division, and he had one more year remaining. He came into Minnesota, and he was bound, determined, and P.J. Fleck, the head coach at Minnesota, was really excited about this kid. I think he's okay. I don't think he's a game changer at all. I don't think he threatened the North Carolina defense at all. But, North Carolina found a way to win a road contest, 1917, I think it was. Should have gotten beat, but didn't. Now, having said all that, quarterback breaks his leg. So they now go to a young man named Connor Harrell, and he's a sophomore. He's played a little bit of football. He's a program guy. This is not a transfer at the University of North Carolina. He's a program guy. And for all of you Tar Heel fans that happen to be listening, Tar Heel football fans, that doesn't even sound right. It's supposed to be basketball. But anyway, don't get mad at me. That was a poor attempt at a joke. The Tar Heel football fans, you need to be concerned. What I saw from this young man is he is a true, you want to say run-throw quarterback? He's a run quarterback that can throw it every now and then. There were a couple of throws that came out of this kid's hands that when if a young man is really a good quarterback with a good way, he's good at throwing the football, you don't see the couple of balls that I saw come out of this kid's hands. I mean, they were just wildly inaccurate. Now, this kid can run. He would be a true zone read play action guy. And what that does to you as a play caller when you've got this kind of quarterback, and I have had one, and it just about was the end of me. What that does to you is your offense becomes first and second down centric. What do I mean by that? If your quarterback is a zone read, play action producer exclusively, and by that I'm leaving out what? Pocket passing on 3rd down and 7+. When you don't have that ability to operate in the pocket on 3rd down 7, the pressure that you are under as a play caller and as an offense to continually produce first downs on 1st and 2nd down. You got to at least get to 3rd down and 5 or less to where some sort of option or movement type throw is available to this kind of quarterback. If it's 3rd down, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's kind of what Nick Saban said last week, your SOL. You can figure that out. It's not going to work. And that's what I saw from this quarterback. I could be wrong. This is a small sample size that I'm working with, okay? But it jumped off the screen at me. I watched the game with great interest because I wanted to see the Texas A&M quarterback, the Johnson kid. And, of course, that didn't last 10 seconds. And if I'm a UNC guy right now, the season is, again, this gets back again to what I said last week. You go into a football season, you've got X, Y, and Z, and suddenly you don't have Z. Well, you got a quarterback change on your hands. This leads me to one other thing. I'm going to give you some coaching here. particularly when I went into the NFL, all right, particularly when I began to work with professional organizations, I had, at the collegiate level, I had a lot of control. I would have a quarterback, whatever the quarterback was. Let's just stay in the East Carolina realm for a minute, okay? When you've got a Jeff Blake at quarterback, a mobile quarterback, and you're out recruiting, you better try your hardest to match the hatch. What do I mean by that? What I mean is this. If your quarterback is a mobile quarterback that has got certain attributes, whatever the attributes are, all right, when you go recruiting, you need to duplicate that for this reason. When your starting quarterback goes down, you've built your entire offense around that quarterback, all right? Well, if that's the case, and you go from a starting quarterback that has XYZ attributes, and then your backup quarterback has ABC attributes, you got to change your whole offense. You got to change 10 men to accommodate the one new guy coming into the huddle. You got to change your play calling sheet. You got to change your way of thinking. You got to change your way of practicing. You got to change everything. All right? So you look at UNC right now, the young man Johnson, he's a classic, quarterback, drop back guy. And suddenly Connor Harrell is not that guy. And so I can tell you that all week long, the offensive coordinator at the University of North Carolina is spending extra hours and reshaping all of the work they did last spring, all of the work that they did this fall. You got to redo it. You got to retool it. And you're putting in a brand new engine, so to speak, and it's going to be difficult. Now, the good news is, I got to laugh. UNC is going to play Charlotte. The University of Charlotte, I guess that's what they call it, Charlotte University, whatever they are, okay, brand new football program, and they've got Biff as the head football coach. This guy's right out of Central Casting. Now, Biff and the Charlotte boys came to East Carolina last year and won a football game. And Biff had his wife-beater T-shirt on, and it's just like something you've never, ever seen before. So this is what Mac Brown has on his hands this weekend. Charlotte is not. In fact, Biff, at the end of fall camp, the entire Charlotte football team was injured, evidently, and he came to the podium. This is the truth. You can look it up. He came to the podium and said he gave himself an F grade as a head coach for fall camp because he was too physical and his whole football team's hurt. So that's who Mac Brown's got. That's the good news, and it's good news for Connor Harrell, the new quarterback, because it's an outfit that, you're thinking that you can go out, get your feet on the ground, and begin to rebuild literally from the ground up a new offense. Okay, all that work that you did last spring, all the work that you did in fall camp has got to be retooled now. So that's going to be an interesting laboratory experiment for the guys over at the University of North Carolina. I don't know how good of a football team. I think they're okay. I'm not sure that they're going to be great this year. I think they're going to have to hustle to unless Connor Harrell, the quarterback, unless he really, really grows in ways that he has not grown yet. I think the University of North Carolina, they're going to have to hustle to win their 8 games, which is kind of their benchmark under the new Mac Brown era, I should say. That leads us to what? East Carolina. Okay? Now, my observations of the East Carolina Norfolk State football game were very positive, and the quarterback situation was very positive, and I was relieved for Coach Houston. I was relieved for the new offensive coordinator, because I know that there were a lot of butterflies going into that thing because Lord knows after what everybody experienced last year, you needed desperately to come out and look like you knew what you were doing. Well, that happened. And it was a relief. Like I say, it was a relief for everybody. And I think that East Carolina came up with a solid answer at quarterback in the Garcia kid. You know, Jake Garcia came out 23 of 36, 3 or 4 touchdowns. Now, I will say this. I was talking to a friend of mine today, and we were talking about the turnover thing. And turnovers are interesting. What you do at the end of every season, coaches make a turnover tape. All right. So every turnover is put on film, and you do an autopsy of what caused it, what was the call, what was the defense, what was the problem. And let's talk about interceptions in particular, because I've always had, as a quarterback coach, you know, I want to be real with my quarterback about his responsibility of ball, taking care of the football. And when it comes to interceptions, there's a number of things that can happen. I've had quarterbacks, one time in my career, and it happened at the professional level. I had a quarterback throw 4 interceptions in one football game. All right. And of those 4 interceptions, 3 of them were indeed the quarterback's fault. There was one interception in there it was the receiver's fault. The receiver ran the wrong route. We were throwing a timing route, and the ball came out. The receiver broke the wrong way, and all of a sudden, defense back catches the ball like it's a punt. He's just standing there. Okay, and you know, to the fans don't know what happened. They just know it was an interception, and what do? You boo the quarterback. Okay, so I'm saying all that to say this: there were 3 interceptions thrown by the quarterback at East Carolina this last weekend. That is, no matter what the reason, okay, I know one of them bounced off a receiver's hands. Anybody can see that. That's really not the quarterback's fault, but it goes down in the category of an interception and a turnover. And but there were 3 interceptions, and this cannot. This, you know, if I were having a team meeting, which, you know, I did a million of them every Sunday, every Saturday, whatever. This can't happen. This can't be who we become. Let me give you, I'm going to give you all some coaching. I want you to stay with me now. You're going to have to do a little arithmetic in your head. All right. Let's say you're going to play 12 football games this year. All right. You got 12 football games scheduled. It doesn't do any good. And I'm kind of talking to coaches too. And I've had this talk with other coaches. And there's a lot of wisdom here, and it took me a long time to come to this, but I did come to this. It was an epiphany one day. We were having turnover problems, and of course I would go in and tell them, you know, no turnovers. We're not going to turn the football over. Okay, that's one way to go about it. You go in the next day, or you keep emphasizing it through the week. Take care of the football. Take care of the football. No turnover. Well, we'd go out and we'd turn the football over again. Through a myriad of circumstances. It could be a tipped pass. It could be a completed pass where the defensive back sticks his helmet right on the ball that the receiver's already caught. The ball comes out, and it's a fumble, and here we go. A million ways to turn the football over, all right? At the end of several successful football seasons at 2 universities, I was doing a cadaver on a turnover tape. And I was looking at the arithmetic involved, all right? First of all, I think it doesn't do any good to just scream at your football team, don't turn the football over. That doesn't do any good. Everybody gets it. I got it. Okay, you don't want to turn the football over. I got it. That doesn't account for the helmet being put on the football at 150 miles an hour. The ball's coming out, all right? So here's the real issue, all right? Here's the real issue. Once I really peeled the onion back and began to do a lot of arithmetic with turnovers, here's what jumped out at me. If you're going to play a 12-game football season, here's what's allowed for you to have a good year and a real solid chance at a winning record. Here's what you got to do. You have to have less than 2 turnovers per game. Well, when you hear Steve Logan say that, you say, well, you idiot, that just sounds like 1. You're only allowed 1. No, that's not what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. over the course of a 12-game season, you're allowed 23 turnovers. If you get out of a 12-game football season with 23 or less turnovers, which is less than 2 turnovers per game, you're going to have a good football year. So, how does that relate to Carolina? Well, right now, you're -3. Okay, you've already got 3. So to get back on track, this game against ODU, which we'll talk about in the next segment, okay, you're allowed exactly 0 turnovers to get back on track. That would give you 3 total turnovers in 2 games. That's less than 2. Okay? In 2 football games, you got to have less than 4 turnovers, 3, 2, or 1. So if East Carolina can go to ODU, take care of the football, that'll give you 2 football games with 3 turnovers. You're back on track. And I'll tell you what, if you do go to ODU without a turnover, your chances of winning that football game go sky high. But you can't go up there and turn it over 3 times. You will get beat. ODU had a great outing against South Carolina, should have won a football game. It's going to be a new set of problems for the East Carolina Pirates this coming weekend. Plus, I looked, there's a good chance, 65% chance of rain. You got to factor that in. A little bit of blues coming in. We'll get back and we'll talk a little bit more about the ODU East Carolina game coming up. 252-561-4263. I do have a tweet sitting here. We'll get to that when we get back. Stay tuned. Logan Zone Radio.
Did you know that GUC's electric rates are the lowest in Pitt County? GUC's average residential electric bill using 1,000 kilowatt hours per month with load management is $21 lower than the investor-owned utilities and $34 lower than the local co-ops. In fact, GUC's average electric bills are still $10 lower than they were 10 years ago. Low rates with high reliability, that's the value of public utilities. That's the value of GUC.
Wear your colors with pride, whether it be ECU or any of the high schools in Pitt County. Stadium Sports on Charles Boulevard has all the merchandise and tailgating gear for the season. Stadium Sports is where the Pirate Nation shops. And it's also the place for hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, and hats to show your support of your favorite Pitt County high school. With tons of brands like Adidas, 1211 Designs, Champion, Cutter & Buck, Costa, Calcutta, and more. You'll find the style you want. Check out the new t-shirts and hats from Pirate Coast. Stadium Sports beside the railroad overpass on Charles Boulevard, Greenville.
You've heard the testimonials of customers from Wells Roofing and Gutters, but you may not know how Jim Wells and his team give back to the community. Recently, Wells Roofing and Gutters had a special Veterans giveaway, and they donated new gutters and labor for the winner, who was Greenville's Tom Quigley, who is a veteran.
My experience with Jim Wells, he was actually running for the 4th of July Veterans Day special where he wanted to gift a set of gutters for a veteran. His crew came out, and it was probably the most professional crew I've ever seen in my life, and they took care of everything. I mean, attention to detail was unreal.
Contact Jim Wells today at 252-227-8403. That's 252-227-8403.
I would just say that he was a straight-up, hard-working, honest person who stands behind what he says he's going to do. And in today's world, that's more important to me than anything else, a man who gives you his word and sticks to it.
Why just be a customer when you can be a priority? At North Carolina Farm Bureau, we're focused on your specific needs. That's why we have local agents working for you in every county across the state, offering competitive rates and fast, friendly service. It's more than insurance. It's the kind of treatment you deserve. Farm Bureau Insurance. Helping you is what we do best.
In Greenville, contact Bill King at 252-413-8850. That's Bill King at 252-413-8850.
Remember the days when you could go to your favorite butcher shop and get your pork chops or steaks cut just the way you like them? Well, you still can. Acre Station Meat Farm on Highway 32 in Pinetown, north of Washington, is Eastern Carolina's traditional butcher shop. Acre Station is where you can get your order cut the way you want it. The best sausage, bacon, and pork chops and steaks you'll ever taste. The short trip to Acre Station is worth the drive.
At Acre Station, you just get that good, friendly service you just can't find anymore.
I guarantee it's the best sausage and bacon you'll ever eat.
Now,
Go for it every time.
back into the Logan Zone, brought to you by Bill Clark Homes, National Finance Company, Greenville Utilities, and Bojangles on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3. Here's Steve Logan.
Time no see. Well, you've come to give me the blues, and just like the way
Back in the Logan Zone. I'll tell you about my friends at National Finance Company. You can take a trip, consolidate debt, update your home, pay off medical bills, whatever you're planning. A personal loan up to $5,000 can help. With NFC, you can get cash now, loans up to $5,000, same day cash, and fixed monthly payments. If you need to borrow money, trust the company that has been helping the Carolinians for more than 50 years. Huge East Carolina fans. National Finance Company. Apply at any of the 24 North Carolina locations or at nfcmoney.com. Here we go. All right. I got a tweet, and basically the question was, what did I think of the play calling or how the game was called at East Carolina last week? And I'll reiterate, I would be the last guy in the world to criticize negatively play calling. I have called, as I mentioned maybe last week, I was in football for 47 years, and 42 of those years I was a play caller. Starting at the junior high level, I called plays. High school level, called plays. Went to Oklahoma State University, and I was a tight end coach. That's how I broke into college football. Did not call plays. Went immediately as a head coach to a junior college as a play caller. Came back to the University of Tulsa, offensive coordinator, play caller. From there to the University of Colorado. 2 years I did not call plays. Mississippi State, called plays for 2 years. East Carolina, called plays all the way through except for maybe 1 year. And into the professional football where I called plays all the way through that with the exception of Tampa Bay. But the point I'm making is I have made some of the greatest calls ever. I really have. That blew up exactly right in my face. It was a great call. I called it at the right time. But maybe the left tackle didn't execute. And I would sit there in the press box sucking on a shotgun because I knew that I'd called the right play, and all that we got out of it was a sack because the left tackle or the center, maybe we didn't hand off a twist properly, maybe the blitz came and we didn't shift our protection properly. It didn't matter, but I knew I had the right call. All right. Conversely, I've made some calls that when they came out of my mouth and went down to the field and I saw us breaking the huddle, I had sheer terror in my heart because I knew that it was the wrong call at the wrong time. And guess what? It scored a touchdown. That's just a look inside of the play caller's journey. Stuff happens. I've mentioned this before that, football, people invariably, you'll hear people say, football's a chess game and you got to do this and you got to do that. And there is some, that is an accurate analogy in the long term. All right. As the game wears on, you do need to make adjustments to what the defense is doing, and the defense needs to make adjustments to what the offense is doing. But let me tell you what's happening play to play. It's not chess play to play. Imagine this. I want you to imagine a game of checkers to where you're at the checkerboard and your opponent is sitting across from you, and let's pretend the game was played this way. You put your hand on your checker, he puts his hand on his checker, and a referee would go 1, 2, 3, move, and you both move at the same time. Can you imagine the chaos that would unfold if you had to play checkers that way? Because you would look up one move, you'd look like a genius. You might get a triple jump. The next time you may get triple jumped.
play to play. That's what's really going on in the game of football, play to play. Now, once you begin to collect data and you see that maybe somebody's running the football every down on first down to open their drives, you should begin to call run-stop defenses. If you look up on your call sheet and every first down you're getting a zone blitz from the defensive coordinator, as an offensive coordinator, you better dial up some RPOs or a max protection deep shot throw. That's the chess part of it, okay? But I can tell you that play to play, it's more like checkers where both opponents move at the same time. It's chaotic and crazy stuff happens. Back to the original question. How did I think East Carolina's new offensive coordinator called the game? I thought he called a great game. And let me tell you what's refreshing about the offense that was imported to East Carolina along with the quarterback. There was, and I mentioned this to open the show, there's a definite purpose. There's a definite identifiable ideology to what I saw last Saturday. Okay, a lot of RPO, a lot of options for the quarterback. I could see the quarterback, behind, in the shotgun. He was surveying things, looking to one side of the football and counting defenders, and looking to the other side of the football, counting defenders, looking at the coverage. And the ball may come to the quarterback in a shotgun, and the ball comes out immediately to the single receiver side. Well, that's because that's the way the play is designed. If you get single coverage over here, let it go right now. If not, let's go back and work a progression to the other side of the field. There was a lot of opportunities in that offense, and this offense is, I'm being general here, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all because I don't. But this offense is built. It's a 21st century offense. It's built to get the playmakers out in space. Lots of wide receiver type screens, for lack of a better word. But the ball is being thrown not so much downfield, but downfield enough. All right. But there's a lot of horizontal throws that they're designed to, and that's the mantra of this generation of coaches, is they want to get the ball into the playmakers' hands out in space. Okay. So the idea is not necessarily to hand the football to the running back between the tackles. There's some of that, but that's only going to happen when the numbers are right. So you're going to see East Carolina come out, spread out, that allows the quarterback a good view of what kind of a box count he's working with. And by box count, I'm talking about how many defenders are from tackle to tackle. And if there's 6 or more, that ball should be thrown. If there's 6 or less, there's an opportunity to possibly run the football or do a myriad of things. But you can tell that the offense is built around one-word calls. They were very, very efficient at the. I got tickled. I'm sorry I started laughing, but let me tell you, I got to look this up to make sure. Whenever the last 3 or 4 years I was working at East Carolina in particular, and I got a dose of this when I was in NFL Europe too. All right, and there's nothing in the world that used to just light my fire than what I'm getting ready to talk to you about. East Carolina played a football game last weekend and won 40-3 or whatever the score was, right? Right. East Carolina's time of possession, here we go, right? Time of possession. Back in the old days, my dad, myself, and even my children, that generation, they were raised and they were brainwashed into thinking time of possession was important. It can be important. It's not as important as it used to be. East Carolina's time of possession last Saturday was 23 minutes. Norfolk State had the football 36 minutes. Okay? And I can remember we were struggling on defense in the last 2 or 3 years I was at East Carolina, but we were still fairly potent on offense, and I was, quite truthfully, trying to outscore our opponent. And let me say this too, philosophically, for all you folks out there that, I heard it, and it's a matter of fact. Logan's scoring too fast. I heard that. Okay, and which I want that to resonate. I just want that to marinate there for a minute. We were scoring too fast. Well, my comeback to that was, if you want, as a defensive coordinator, we had a huge staff blow up at the San Francisco 49ers. And as a matter of fact, it concerned our very first football game. We went to the New York Giants, as I mentioned. We scored against the Giants. I think we went ahead 19-17 with 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the clock. Eli Manning took the football on a 2-minute drill, went down, and of course they kicked a field goal with no time left on the clock, and we got beat by a point on the last play of the game. We got back, and of course flew all night long. Of course everybody's miserable. And our defensive coordinator had the audacity, and that's the only word I can attach to it, to say in an open staff meeting, we scored too fast. And if I'd have had an AR-15, I'd have pulled it out from under the table. I'd have shot everybody in the room. Because I got news for you, Mr. Defensive Coordinator. I know I'm an offensive coach, okay? But you had an opportunity to go out there and stop them. That's what you were getting paid to do. And we had millions of dollars of defensive football players on the field that were being paid to stop Eli Manning in a 2-minute drill, okay? Our responsibility, the responsibility of the offensive side of the football that night, was to score. The best thing an offense can do for the defense is to score, period. When you have the opportunity to control, we had to have a touchdown in that last minute and 20 seconds. We didn't have the opportunity to manipulate the clock and kick a field goal. That's a whole different conversation, okay? But when you have to have a touchdown, I got news for you, football fans and defensive coaches. We can't orchestrate when to score the touchdown. You better get it when you can get it. And if you get it, hit your knees and thank the Lord. Now, put the other half of the football team out on the field and go stop them. And it was, I'm telling you, there were switchblades, pistols, everything in that staff meeting came out when that defensive coordinator made that comment, and that the room exploded. I have another bad example. I was coaching in the XFL, basically the AAF, but the XFL. And we got into that odd situation at the end of a football game, and here was the situation. We had the ball with a 3-point lead at the 50-yard line. 4th down and 5. 6 seconds left on the clock. 4th down, 5. 6 seconds left on the clock with a 3-point lead. The special teams coordinator on the team that I was coaching on, I was the offensive coordinator. He came on the headset and he said, "Hey, can you just drop back and hold the football and then throw it out of bounds to eat up that last 5 or 6 seconds? We don't want to put our punt team on the field." And I lost my religion on the headsets. Nothing but 4-letter words came screaming out of my mouth at him. And I told him, I said, "Hey, get your punt team on the field, punt the football, and cover it. Tackle the man with the ball and end the football game." And then the head coach got on, and he got in the middle of it. Well, to the end of the story, we went on the field, we punted the football, and went down and tackled the guy, and that was the end of the football game. But the point I'm making is there are some coaches that the flip, and I said this in the staff meeting the next day because things got very heated. And I said, I'll tell you what, the next time that you do stop them and we're down by 4 and they punt me the football and I get it on the minus 16-yard line with 1:20 left, I think I'll just kind of try to wiggle a way out of not having to take my responsibility, which is what? Get the football and go score. It's your job. It's what you're getting paid for. And as you can tell, my blood pressure is skyrocketing just talking about this idea. But the point is, East Carolina had the football 23 minutes last week. How did they call the game? I thought they called it very nice, and they had a chance. They had a chance to express the offense that was taught in the spring and taught in the fall. It was against an inferior opponent. It was perfectly served up, and it was handled well. Okay, here's a little Loganism for you. A good football team should beat a bad football team badly. That's exactly what East Carolina did. They were the better football team. They beat a bad football team badly. So on to the ODU game we go that we'll talk about in the next segment. I got a couple of tweets I can get to here when we get back. In the Logan Zone. Come back after the break.
Since my baby took up no good ways, and it seemed like our world.
Did you know that GUC's utility rates are not only low in the region, but also in the state? That's right. When you combine the average electric, water, wastewater, and natural gas into one bill, only people in 2 of the 15 largest cities pay less than GUC customers. Only 2. Low rates and high reliability, working in the best interest of the community rather than shareholders. That's the value of public utilities. That's the value of GUC.
Homeowners in Eastern Carolina know that we get a lot of rain and roof leaks can lead to major issues with your home. Wells Roofing and Gutters is the name to remember if you have problems like Karen, a homeowner in Pitt County who says she found Jim Wells from his many online positive reviews.
I Googled. Proof came out, gave me an estimate, gave me a discount for being a veteran, fixed it, came the day that they were scheduled on time, cleaned everything up. I have not found a single nail or shingle in my yard fence.
Karen says the crew found additional damage she wasn't even aware of and handled that professionally to protect her home from future issues.
They saved me probably thousands in repair by finding the damage that I wasn't even looking for on the front. And the way that they were on time and the way that they cleaned everything up is like, I really appreciate that.
Call Jim Wells at 252-227-8403. That's 252-227-8403.
Hey, Pirate fans, take a trip, consolidate debt, update your home. Whatever you're planning, a personal loan up to $5,000 can help. Coach Logan here from my friends at National Finance Company. With NFC, you can get cash now. Loans up to $5,000, same-day cash, and fixed monthly payments. If you need to borrow money, trust the company that has been helping Carolinians for more than 50 years. National Finance Company. Apply at any of their 24 North Carolina locations or at nfcmoney.com.
As fall approaches, 2 things come to mind: football and cooler weather. This is Rachel Davis with Advanced Mechanical Heating and Air. We wanted to thank you for the trust you have put in us this summer. Before you know it, cooler temperatures will arrive, signaling winter is on the way. Don't wait. Prepare now for colder temperatures by scheduling a tune-up. Give us a call today at 252-355-9191 or visit our website, advancedmechnc.com.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
Coach Steve Logan wants to hear from you. Tweet at Steve Logan Show or call 252-561-GAME to jump into the Logan Zone on 94.3 The Game and Talk 96.3.
I left home this morning, I promised I would think, to stay real straight and sober. I swore I wouldn't drink bad whiskey,
Bad whiskey.
Bad whiskey.
I don't want any part of that.
Bad whiskey made me lose my.
Bill Clark Homes. The Logan Zone is built by Bill Clark Homes. The Clark family are huge supporters of ECU athletics. The football stadium, baseball stadium, Pirate Club, Bill Clark Homes has always been there for East Carolina. The reason they can do all that is because Bill Clark Homes continues to build quality homes and neighborhoods in both the Greenville area and in Wilmington. And you can choose your school district with several homes under construction and available now in both markets. Eastern North Carolina's premier home builder, Bill Clark Homes, building family traditions. And they do indeed. So, as we come back, I got a tweet here I had to start laughing at again. You know, that time of possession thing got my blood pressure up. And then somebody tweeted, "I want to know why," during a football game. And this was always a source of amusement and irritation, I would say, a source of irritation to a lot of the fans when I coached football at East Carolina. Really, anytime I coached from the sideline. I did the same thing when I was working on the sideline at the San Francisco 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I spent 1 year at the press box with the Buccaneers and 2 years on the sidelines handling substitutions. And at San Francisco, I was calling the plays into the quarterback, which gets me to another subject of, the college football is finally given in, and you now have coach-to-player radio contact, which is routine stuff in the NFL. And at any professional level, to be honest with you, they all have it. But at San Francisco, I was on the sideline calling the plays into the quarterback. And but the thing that irritated people at East Carolina was I was always separated way down at the opposite end. Wherever the football was, I was as far away from it as I could possibly get. And I would try to ease out onto the football field maybe 2 or 3 yards, and I would get down on one knee. And the reason I was doing that is, guess what I was doing? I was working. I was trying to see the offensive line or the defensive line, what was going on in the interior. It's relatively easy to see what's going on the perimeter. But as much as anything, I was interested in our protection schemes. I was interested to see what the defensive front was doing to the offensive line, and trying to stay in tune with that. It affected the play calling. It allowed me to make adjustments that I knew happened rather than here's the other thing that can happen that football players will do to you. Okay, you get a terrible result from a football play, and then at the end of the series, the kids come over to the sideline and you get a chalkboard. I've seen the offensive line coaches go through this for decades. They get the chalkboard. Hey, what happened on this? What happened on this? And every single guy says, "I got my man." Well, no, you didn't. And the reason I know you didn't is because I saw it. All right. Now, there's a lot of iPad stuff that has been infiltrated in the NFL. You can run back every play on the iPad and go back, and you can actually see what really happened. So the episodes of people saying, "I got my man," it's a different era now. But the reason that I was separated and the reason I stayed separated at Tampa Bay and the Birmingham Iron and NFL Europe, you name it. In NFL Europe, I was always in the press box, which is the premier way for me personally to call a football game because it's quiet. I get to see everything. But when I had to be on the sideline, I got away from the chaos as much as I could. And it was so that I could see what was happening from a better angle and make adjustments as were necessary. And that's the long and short of it. It was just a way for me to be able to see what was going on. And there's a lot of coaches, the working coach. Let me say this, the working coaches, if you'll notice, the defensive coordinators, the offensive coordinators, they're standing behind the action most of the time. It's so they can see something if they have to operate on the sideline. A lot of defensive coordinators operate on the sideline, and they do it for good reason. Because defense, unlike offense, defense has an emotional element to it that is necessary. Okay? It's necessary to get emotional, to chase the football, and tackle with a vengeance. And emotions play a role. On the offensive side of the ball, it's quite the opposite. you need to control your emotions, all right? And screaming and yelling in an offensive huddle doesn't really accomplish much. I need people to go out and execute the request that was made in the huddle. Just do your job, all right? There's a Bill Belichick famous quote for you. Just do your job, all right? And do it with efficiency. You know what your assignment is. Go get it done, all right? Now, the defensive players are obviously going to try to disrupt your journey, but you've got a job to do. Stay emotionally stable and go get the job done, all right? So, the defensive coaches, that emotional element, a lot of defensive coaches prefer to be on the sideline because between series, it may be necessary to elevate the emotions. All right? And on the offensive side of the ball, as I've just explained, it's a different set of problems to solve. All right? You need to stay calm. You need to be high alert, but you need to stay calm to execute, again, the requests that are made in the huddle for your position. All right? So, there's a little comment. I've got one more tweet here that it's kind of sad to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on it. The tweet, it basically, I'm going to shorten it. It talks about the realignment, this tectonic shift that took place at the collegiate level, all these conferences, all these teams shifting around. And, once again, how East Carolina got left out. And in reality, if we're honest with ourselves, there are really only two schools, but there are two. And it really does kind of upset me that when you look at the Big 12 Conference, which now is one of the Big Four, you see the University of Central Florida and the University of Cincinnati in those conferences. Now, folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. That's hard for me to wrap my brain around from the standpoint of all through the 90s and even into the 2000s after I left college football. If East Carolina played either one of those schools, it was almost marked as an automatic win. And this gets back to one of the things that I am passionate about still to this day, and that's leadership. This leadership thing, it's not just the head football coach. It's everybody involved with the university. All right? You've got these windows of opportunities that come and go, and obviously these opportunities have gone. I mean, they've come and gone now. But it's just amazing how circumstances, personalities, whatever the case may be, passed by. And I'm seeing the University of Central Florida in the Big 12 Conference. I can't wrap my brain around that. I really can't. The University of Cincinnati in the Big 12 Conference. It's just amazing to me that that came about. But you never know what's in the future. But it does come down to leadership. I'm going to take a little pause and throw a commercial in for myself. You can contact me at coachstevelogan@gmail.com. If you have a leadership type event for your corporation, I do several events a year like that, and would be glad to talk to you about it if it feels like it would be a good fit for you. So just to finish up, the East Carolina ODU game that's coming up, this is going to be I mentioned the Tennessee North Carolina State game being a real barometer for what's going to unfold for North Carolina State in particular. I really believe that. I really think that this particular ODU game is going to be something that East Carolina is going to look back on at the end of this year and say, well, this happened, that happened, and it kind of predicted some things that are coming up. So Philip, you may have a schedule in front of you. You've got ODU, and then it's App State at home, true?
Sorry, Mike's not working real well. Correct.
That's okay. So, the App State game, again, this is something that's kind of hard for me to wrap my brain around, but Appy State, I'm not supposed to say Appy State. I got jumped on all over in Raleigh. I said Appy. It's App State. Okay. App State will have almost equal talent to East Carolina. That's a matter of fact. That's going to happen. And the point being is it's going to be a tough game, and App State will know how to come to Greenville and win. They will know how to do that. They've got a lot of fabric in their program. The point being is that's going to be a tough football game for both teams, all right? But this ODU game, if East Carolina can go up to Old Dominion, find a way to win on the road, this will really set the table for East Carolina to continue to rebuild what was going on just 2 years ago. Just 2 years ago, East Carolina was playing good competitive football and had a lot of fabric in the program. And again, it just takes one screw up at the most important position in all of sport, that being quarterback, collegiate or pro, high school, doesn't matter. Okay, it's the quarterback. Well, you screw that up, and we all got a front row seat to what it looks like. Okay, so it's something that East Carolina, this game coming up against Old Dominion, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And as we were talking about earlier, the formula that I put out relative to turnovers. All right, East Carolina. If you're going to be a good football team, you're really only allowed one turnover. If you want to get back on schedule, you've got to make this a no turnover football game. And then you would be back on schedule. If there's a way to go and play football at Old Dominion and get out of it with no turnovers, your chances of winning that football game will be sky high. And that would be my message if I was talking to that football team. Folks, that's round 2 of the Logan Zone. Appreciate everybody listening in. We will be back next Thursday at 5 o'clock. 2 hours of a little bit of wine, a little bit of blues, and a whole lot of football. Appreciate y'all listening.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when